So welcome back to the Spartan Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Martel, and today we are welcoming our new Spartan Podcast co-host, Dr. Crista Reaves. I want to take time to also thank Harley for being such a great co-host and imparting so much insight into our listeners over the past year. His addition to the podcast will be greatly missed, but I can't think of a better addition to the Spartan Nurse Podcast than my colleague and co-teacher, Crista Reaves. So, Crista, we have been working together co-teaching a course in the college since 2020, so for a little over 4 years.
I know.
So I, of course, have gotten to know you really well. Our students have often mentioned that our lecture feels like a podcast to them, and we should do a podcast. So now we're actually making that a reality,
real.
right?
It's real.
Can you start off by sharing with the audience a little bit about your educational background and area of expertise, and maybe why you chose nursing?
Sure. Yeah. Great to be here, by the way. Great to finally work with you. So I went to Western Michigan University for my BSN, graduated from that and worked at Sparrow Health System for a couple of years, which is now University of Michigan Sparrow. And then I went back to school here at Michigan State for my master's degree. I had my master's in nursing education. And then I worked part-time clinical faculty here at Michigan State and then decided to go get that big degree. So went to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, obtained my PhD there back in 2019. And then you and I met. And we've been working together ever since, and we both went full-time and have been teaching Nursing 337. Side story, but when I was little, like elementary school, middle school, my brother, it was like a neighborhood. So we had like 3 different streets. They were all like cul-de-sac streets. And behind one of the cul-de-sacs was a big field and woods, and we knew the people that owned it. And so we would go down back there and play fort, like where you build forts and you had like armies and whatever, right? So I was the nurse. So I built my own fort and I was the nurse's station. I had Band-Aids in there, probably some old expired Neosporin that I found, and I had a little first aid kit. And so when people would get scrapes and cuts from like trying to shave their arrows, you know,
Oh my God.
I'm not even joking. They would come to see me and I would bandage them up and be like, go out there, you got this. So like back then I was like, I kind of like this, which I know nursing is so much more than that, right? But initially I was like, I like this idea. And then as I kind of got older and was really considering like, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? When I was in high school, I loved biology. So I knew I liked something in the sciences. I loved the show ER, which has like since been retired. I don't know for how many years it's been gone, but I liked that show and what the nurses were doing on that show. And so I thought, okay, I will go into nursing. Like I like the idea of being up. I like the idea of like moving around all the time, being super busy. Interacting with patients. And so that's why I originally went. Now, I will tell you, though, like always when you decide to go into something and then when you actually get into something, it turns into something totally different. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So like once I got into my first couple nursing courses, I was like, oh, like I want to be a nurse because I want to help people like in their most vulnerable time. I want to be their advocate. I want to just care for them, answer their questions, kind of relieve their anxieties. And so that was really like probably after my freshman year of undergrad, that was really my driving force for the rest of my programs and even continuing on into my doctorate degree.
What about nursing education? Like what drove you to that?
So as a child, as I grew up, I had a speech impediment. I also had dyslexia, and I was in a slow reading group. And so like from my early on, I was always kind of, I don't know, like limited expectations, I would say, of what I could do, right? So that always kind of plagued me growing up, like that I was never good enough. And so, you know, my speech impediment improved, literacy, I love reading now, I have a PhD, so obviously I was able to work with my dyslexia, although I still switch numbers sometimes, which I'm glad that you and I double check course grades.
Right. We do. We always
we
very carefully.
Do. So anyways, but as I was in nursing school, I had this one professor, and she was not very nice, honestly. And it really, she told me things like, I don't know if this is the right profession for you. I don't think that you're cut out for this. And really all those insecurities that I had growing up really were like right at the forefront. And I thought, can I do this? Like, am I really able to do this as a profession? And I was like, yes, I can do this. And so I worked really hard in her course and passed and everything. And she was my clinical instructor as well. But that's what actually led me, like, now looking back, I'm actually grateful for her, even though I would never do that. But she's the one that I thought, I can do this in a way that is supportive and encouraging to students. Like if students are struggling, I can help them and be that support and help them to accomplish their dreams. And so that's originally why I went into nursing education, because I wanted the field of education to be filled with professors who are kind, caring, supportive, and really want to help their students succeed. So that's originally why I went into it.
Share a little bit more about yourself so the audience can get to know you a little bit more.
So I am married. I actually got married on spring break, my senior year of college. I always tell that story because a lot of our students get married during college, especially our accelerated students. So I always am like, I was there, I did that. So I've been married for 20 years. We've got 3 daughters. I have a senior this year.
Wow.
Oh, we had senior pictures taken, and I know I sent you some senior photos. And I actually cried a little bit because it's like, this is it. This is the last year before they fly, and she actually wants to go into nursing, which I'm so excited about. Maybe even here.
That's awesome.
Wouldn't that be cool to have her as a student?
Maybe, yeah.
I would just pretend
awesome.
like she's a regular student.
Right, exactly. That would be awesome.
So I have a senior. I've got a sophomore in high school, and then I have a 12-year-old. So she's in 7th grade. Hobbies. I feel like there's nothing I don't enjoy doing. Like, I don't know. I like everything outdoors. I think you do too. Like you like kayaking and being outside with your kids and playing, swimming.
Right.
I don't really like swimming though.
You like gardening.
I love gardening.
In fact, we heard a story about that today. Do you want to share that with the audience?
Yes, this is so embarrassing. All right, I'll share it. So I have a garden that I love, and like I've always dreamed of this garden. And so my husband built me this garden, and it has a special gate on it that you see in like the storybooks, and it has like vines all around it and flowers and sunflowers. It's beautiful. It's like my happy place. And so I want to do an organic garden, like all natural with not using any pesticides. So I was starting to get bugs in my garden. Like, I don't even know what they're called. I tried to look them up. I don't really know. They're very tiny. I was looking at MSU entomology. Like, what are these bugs? Yeah. I don't know. But they were eating the leaves of my plants. Like these tiny things are eating like the stems. And so I'm like, okay, they're killing my plants. So I tried like getting them with garlic spray. I don't know. I read that that's a natural thing. Not working. So I was reading online, and it was like, get ladybugs. If you have ladybugs, they will eat these small little bugs, and then your garden plants will thrive. They'll flourish, whatever. And I was like, okay, perfect. I am going to get some ladybugs. So I get online. I don't even know where I was. I ordered 150 ladybugs for $65, had them shipped to my house. So I was so excited. I'm like, this is going to cure all my problems. I go out to the garden, and I'm like, what makes me think that they're going to stay? It's not a greenhouse. It's very open to the air. And so I was reading online, okay, like, how do I get these ladybugs to stay and, like, build their home here? And it said, oh, it just needs water, they need soil, and they need something to eat. And I'm like, water, check. I got an irrigation system there. Soil, check. All you can eat buffet, check, because there's bugs everywhere that they could eat. So I like get so excited. So I open up this like little trap that they were in for these ladybugs, and they all fly away. Like, I'm just like, they're all gone except one. One lands on this leaf, but they're all gone. I'm like, goodbye. Goodbye, $65 and 149 ladybugs. Good luck to you. So one ladybug stayed, and I was like, yes, thank you. And I was like, this is your new home, and this is your garden. And then it flew away. Oh, no. So I spent $65 and still have bugs.
Sounded like a good idea when you started telling it, but yeah, now they all flew away.
Yep, yeah.
So can you share a little bit more about your role here in the college?
Sure. So I obviously teach nursing 337, and I love what you and I do with co-teaching that. That's been just a game changer. And then I also teach clinical for part of my role here. I also get to do research, which I love. So my research interest is durable learning and nursing education. So basically what that means is, how do students remember what we taught them, so that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, when they encounter a situation, they can think back, okay, this is what I learned, this is what I need to apply. So that's what my research is in. It's been fabulous. We've teamed up a colleague from Michigan State and I, plus a couple colleagues from Penn State University. Also, I coordinate the competency-based academic clinical partnership model. It's like a mouthful. So basically, that's like something that Dr. Poindexter and really envisioned, and I worked with her to kind of bring it to life. Because really, when we looked at the research, it really showed that nursing students were not prepared when they graduated. So they didn't have the confidence, they didn't have the competence of what our clinical partners were expecting when these students graduate from us. So we were like, okay, we can't just keep doing the same thing and expect the same results. So what can we do on the education side to make sure that our students are amazing, right? And they're ready to practice and do so in a great way. So really what that looks like is having the nursing students see the role of the RN from their very first clinical shift in the hospital. So their very first nursing course, we put them together with an RN, so they get to see the whole role of the nurse from Med-Surg 1 all the way up through their preceptorship. They get to see what it's like to take care of multiple patients besides just one patient. Really lets that clinical faculty have more of a critical thinking component into their education, their students' education. So this is like my favorite part of nursing education. It's probably yours too, knowing you, is like asking those higher level questioning, right?
Absolutely.
Like just saying, okay, so yeah, I know that you gave them Lovenox, but what do we want to look at? What are the lab values? Okay, what would tell us if something was wrong? What signs and symptoms would be looking for? It's like all that critical thinking, reasoning, judgment pieces that we don't get to spend a ton of time as clinical faculty doing in the traditional model. And so this really just flips the script so that the students are completing the tasks with the RNs, and then you and I, or the clinical faculty, really get to have that one-on-one just pulling of the ideas, critical thinking piece that to really stretch their minds and to help them really see the bigger picture.
And to really have that time doing those things, when a lot of times as a clinical faculty in the traditional model, you're bogged down with those tasks versus trying to really get those students to see that bigger picture and how things connect and all that. So yeah, we've gotten all the students that I've heard have had great feedback from that as well. And the clinical faculty, I think, like it as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's a huge satisfier. I think it's great for both faculty and for students. We have seven different clinical groups in this model, and our goal by next summer is to have all of the groups in this model. It does take a lot of collaboration and partnership with our different clinical institutions. So we do partner up with multiple clinical institutions to have groups there. And we're working to expand that because we really feel so passionately that this is the way of the future, that this model prepares our students. And we want to make sure that all of the students have the same opportunity to really be the most confident and competent nurse that they can be.
So what do you think are the biggest opportunities for growth in nursing education and practice?
I think really what we're trying to do with this collaborative model, I think the biggest opportunity would be to bridge the practice to theory gap that exists. So making sure that what students are learning in theory, again, they're able to apply it, that they're not just memorizing the content, but they really know it to provide excellent care for our patients and then really improve their outcomes. So I think the more we can do with competency-based education, the AACN Essentials with the new competency-based curriculum that they've put out to align, our course objectives and things with their essentials, I think that's really going to help tremendously in helping our students really be prepared for the realities of practice, not just with being competent in what they're doing, but resilient and being able to have the tools and the toolkit, like you and I always talk about, of those strategies that they can use to incorporate mindfulness and be able to be just more resilient and more able to provide better care because they themselves are cared for.
Absolutely. So, let's talk for a minute about that. So that change from being a student to now being a nurse, that can be a really difficult transition. So do you want to talk a little bit more about how some of these things help with that transition from being a student to now being a nurse?
Yeah, so I think that, when you're transitioning from a student to a nurse, I always encourage my students to just be involved on their unit as much as they can be to build those relationships. I know when I was a new nurse, I needed some help, right? You have a lot of questions and you don't have that clinical faculty there. You don't have your nurse that you're oriented with there. So even things like you don't normally see, things that you might need. I had questions, hey, where do I find this? Where do I find that? So being engaged with your peers on your unit, with your colleagues. I know you and I both got involved with our unit-based council on our units, just to be more involved, again, to see that bigger picture. And I also encourage students to have a mentor. I think that that's huge because that helps them to see, oh yeah, this is normal. These feelings are normal and it's going to be okay. And oh yeah, I need to incorporate this technique, or I need to, maybe go out for a walk or do some mindfulness, because sometimes that mentor can be the one that reminds you, hey, take a breath. Why don't you go out and just relax for a minute, take a quick break, and then come back into the care. But I think just surrounding yourself by supportive people really helps you, transition into that role. Would you say that too?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mentorship is so important. And, one of the most rewarding things as faculty, and, I'm sure you feel this way as well, is, hearing back from our students after graduation and, hearing about their transition into practice, and then maybe even them reaching out for advice on things, or to, just talk to them about something. I think that that's really great. One of my former students in the undergraduate program is actually now she's a graduate student, and she's actually joining our course this semester because she's going to school to be a faculty member. And to me, it gives me chills to think that, wow, as an educator, I had an impact, and she sought me out at a different university to want to partner with me to learn how to be an educator herself. And to me, that's like, wow, what a humbling, rewarding thing to happen.
Yeah, I love that.
It's awesome.
Full circle.
Absolutely. Tell us why you agreed to join as a co-host of the podcast. Do you have any ideas or goals for the podcast that you want to share with the listeners?
Sure. Well, I think I initially joined because you have this passion for this podcast, and you just loved it so much that I thought it's got to be pretty fun, right? Like, if you like it this much, and I'll probably like it too. But I really love the idea, actually, of bringing in people that maybe we wouldn't, know very well, or know what they're going for, or what they're trying to achieve, or even what they can offer our community as a whole, and our alumni and all of that good stuff. So I think it's just exciting to be able to bring people in, to learn from them, to have good takeaways, to apply what they've taught us. So I just love the idea of kind of getting the word out to other people on different topics that they might be interested in.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great spot to be an advocate. It's really a great avenue for that, because we have through our listeners, we can advocate, and we can share resources that are in the community, and really highlight some really important things that are going on in healthcare, and talk about some really important topics. So that's awesome. I'm glad you joined us. Yeah,
I will also say that I think we have a lot of fun together in our lecture, and
we do.
Yeah, as colleagues. So I think it's just going to be fun.
So back to the ladybug. I know that's random. Why are we bringing up the ladybug again? It's actually interesting that you shared this, because, if you think about it, you release those ladybugs, right? Just like when students graduate, they leave our program, unlike the ladybugs who might just fly away and never come back, we want our students to come back and talk to us, and to let us know what they're doing. First off, I love hearing from students because it's rewarding to me as faculty. I think, I can speak for both of us that probably our three most favorite days of the year are graduation.
Oh, 100%. I feel like I cry every graduation.
Right. And we don't really miss them because how hard those students have worked to achieve that.
Yes.
And then they, just like ladybugs, fly out to all these other parts of the country. And
I'm sad about
doing all these amazing things. Yes.
And we're sad that they are flying away.
Exactly.
Because we have invested in them.
Exactly. But, and like any, but they have to spread their wings and they fly. And all we hope is that, from time to time, they come back and fly home to Michigan State to come say hello, and to even, maybe even come back as faculty one day. We're always looking for nurse faculty, and we love having Spartan Nurse alumni faculty. So, I was just thinking of that because, you had talked about the ladybug, and there's a lot of similarities there.
Yes, I love that.
So thank you for joining us today to get to know Crista, who is now my co-host for the Spartan Nurse Podcast. To find your breaking news and latest updates within the College of Nursing, please refer to our website at nursing.msu.edu. You can also find us on all social media platforms at MICHST Nursing. Who will? Spartan Nurses will.